Zach, one thing I'm seeing more and more of, and I think the term's called built to rent, where some of these developers, particularly some turnkey providers, are instead of fixing up an older home, they're building brand new ones, and then the whole community is a renter community. Which
Yeah.
I happen to have a property in one of those, so I can see it from the investor side.
So it's you doing
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Good point. I would say I'm
Get
not.
them.
You know, there are some downsides to doing that. Like it sounds from the investor side, now you own a brand new home
Yep.
that's run and managed, so less repairs and maintenance. Um, but I tell you one thing I'm seeing, like the whole block or the whole development is your competition.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to rent to the rental market, it's more difficult to raise your rents because there's a home that looks exactly like yours that hasn't raised their rent in a while. But that's one issue I've seen.
Yeah. So I'll comment on that. So that's a supply issue. And so what happened in the last few months was there was actually an enormous amount of multifamily supply that got delivered across the United States, especially in the Southeast and in areas of Texas. Huge amounts, thousands of multifamilies got released into the market, and rents dropped. In some localities, they dropped 9, 10%. But you saw some big metropolitan areas where rents dropped 5, 7, again, 10%, because a huge amount of inventory hit the market. So the dynamics that most metropolitans are in, especially on the West, is that there is no inventory. We're not building enough property to house people. So yes, you're competing against the neighborhood, but if there's no other option, who cares? So the reality is that we have no supply. We're underbuilt significantly. And if we want to address affordable housing, we need to have more supply. That's the only solution. It's the only solution available. Any talk about anything else, subsidizing, regulating, doesn't even compare to the impact that having more supply would bring. And the only way to have more supply, especially in the state of Nevada, is to have more land and deregulation. And that would fix the housing crisis that we are currently in.
And even if that happened, we would still be a few years out before everything got developed and built and able to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zach, if so, what I'm hearing a couple things here. If I'm the average investor, right, what I'm hearing you say is that inventory is low, interest rates are high, the market is very competitive. If I'm the average investor looking to get in or to acquire more, what message do you have for these guys, right? Is it, hey, just wait 3 years, 4 years till we get more supply, or is there something that you can give them a little insight on?
My question would be, do you see more supply on the horizon? We are so vastly underbuilt that now, not necessarily in new homes. So new homes, they're priced at a higher level. So they're typically upper middle or luxury purchases now, new homes that are being built, depending on the metropolitan area. So we may actually be overbuilding that because there's not enough consumers for that market. But the average home and below, we're vastly underbuilt. And remember, most metropolitans are experiencing that same thing, where the available property count is greatly reduced over time because of investment into it. And new product is just, it simply isn't being built. Like, you're not entering a new market as a developer and building a $250,000 home. You're entering a new market and you're Toll Brothers and you're building $1 million home on average, right? So it's not being restocked. So not only is it being eaten alive, it's not being restocked either. So the inventory problem is here to stay. If all things stayed relatively the same, we are going to be in a housing crisis for a decade plus, where housing becomes unaffordable for everyone to enter the market, unless you are at the upper echelon of society. So right now, consumer confidence rests almost entirely in the upper echelons of our country. The top 4% make up like 46% of purchasing currently. They're the drivers of the economy, is the upper end. I'm seeing it in real estate. I'm seeing it elsewhere. So if my suggestion would be get in, you may see a downturn with everything that's going on, but the downturn in real estate is going to be rather short-lived and, in my opinion, minor. Commercial is a different issue. That has more risk exposure, especially in office. But in residential, normal cash flow investment, I think that pricing is only going to go up for the majority of metropolitans across the United States over a 5, 10, 15-year run. And so if you can afford something makes sense to you, the monthly payment makes sense, the rent covers your monthly cost, you got to look at the whole picture. Do you get depreciation? How does it look in terms of your entire tax and investment scenario? And chances are, even if you're making money on the long, because there's appreciation and there's depreciation on taxes and other financial benefits there. So I think that the best thing is get into what you can afford and ride it for the long term. Again, you may have some turmoil in the near term, 1 to 2 years, but really I think that the long run is just a definitive at this point.
You want to see the entire episode? Click here. If you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, click here. If you want to see if infinite banking is for you and you have some questions, hop on a discovery call with us and one of our coaches. The link for that will be in the description.